Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Katrina Kryzalka. I help out with the Calgary Horror Con. Obviously, you know who these beautiful people are. Neal, DUGAN from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're celebrating the anniversary this year. Basically, we're going to get going. They can tell a few stories, and then towards the end, we'll take a few audience questions before we cut it off just before 3. So if you want to get started, as we all know, Texas Chainsaw is one of the most influential horror movies of all time.
It is?
And
It's
news to me. But when you guys first got on the production, nobody knew how big it was going to be. At what point did you guys realize it was a bigger picture than you ever imagined?
I guess when it kind of got into, when Johnny Carson mentioned it on his show or something, when it became kind of jargon, you know, people say, well, that's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well,
you know,
they ran this ad, you know, like this big, like $842,000 and $16 in 1 week at the Alhambra Theater. We went, excuse me?
Yeah.
And I called John, I go, John, all we have to do is go sit down by the mailbox with some cola and wait.
Yeah.
And wait. And wait! We're still waiting, Katrina!
I know, right?
But, you
They
know,
had no
if
idea
we'd
that
have
they
known,
were never
if
going
I-
to pay us, so they didn't.
My standard answer to that question, if I'd known then how big it was going to be, I would, you know, we would have had lawyers and agents and shit like that, you know.
If I had it to do over again, I'd do it over a liquor store.
Film it at a liquor store. Teri, come on in, Teri. The
Where
water's
is she?
warm.
She's gotten short. Have you gotten shorter, Terry?
Round of applause for Teri.
Yeah, but that was the first time we knew, was when all those ads ran, because all the little tiny theaters that were showing it were very proud of that. Like, we've got something you should come see. And we made $800,000 last week, and so if it's that good, you should come see it too.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's when we knew. We didn't know until then. And then, of course, a week later, Rex Reed, the great interviewer,
Yeah, Rex Reed.
it's the Jaws of the midnight movies. And we went, wow, cool.
And Roger Ebert absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
He compared me, my character, to, he compared me to Dustin Hoffman.
When Dustin was
Actually,
8.
Dustin Hoffman's character in Little Big Man, old,
Yeah.
what's his name? Old Sam or whatever. So a couple of years after that, I run into Roger Ebert in a tavern in Chicago, O'Rourke's, as a matter of fact, back when Roger used to drink, and he used to drink. And I said, Roger Ebert, and he goes, yes. I said, I'm John Dugan. I just want to thank you for comparing me to Dustin Hoffman. And he goes, I didn't realize that I'd done that, Mr. Dugan. When did I do that? I told him who I was, and he looked quite freaked. We had a couple drinks together. And I saw him, I lived in Chicago for many years, and I'd bump into him occasionally, and we'd talk, you know.
Then he told me, those things are written by an 18-year-old staff member named Bobby. This gentleman has the distinction of being the youngest guy in the film playing the oldest character.
That's 20 years old. I was 20 years old.
It's quite the contrast.
Yeah.
Now, I know that the filming conditions were hectic on set. You compared it to war in Vietnam. There was plenty of bar.
Vietnam was easier.
Vietnam was easier. Teri came out with a bunch of bruises. Can you guys tell me a little bit about that?
But that was just from the cast party, wasn't it?
Probably.
Sorry.
We all got pretty beat up in the process, I think. Teri and Marilyn probably got it the worst.
The only time, you know, especially fighting a 300-pound man for your life for 10 hours, that was brutal. I couldn't walk or talk after that. I was hoarse at the end of the day. They gave me some Jack Daniels to, you know, because it's hard to do those scenes and continue to do them and not really scream. So, but I was losing my voice, and I mean, I was worn to a frazzle, had to cancel a show I was doing on stage, where I'd be on stage for 3 hours after we finished filming in the day. I'd go and do that at night. No way, for 2 nights. It broke my heart because I loved the play, and you know. But also that scene where I'm gonna fall into the chicken room, you know, where I'm looking for Kirk and I go through the curtain and all that. There was a galvanized bucket with a rim that was just razor sharp. And so when I went in, Toby said, well, why don't you try tripping over that bucket, Teri? You know, and I said, oh, well, okay, sure, you know. So I tripped over it, and Toby said, yeah, that's good, let's shoot it again. So, and mind you, I had hit my shin on that bucket. And so we reshot that 13 times. And every time it would hit that same spot, you know, and I don't know if I finally at the end said, my shin cannot take this anymore, you know, either you pad that frickin' bucket or, you know.
I was laying on the floor in a pile of chicken feathers holding a shotgun mic.
That's a phrase that doesn't come up often.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I finally figured out?
Uh-uh.
I finally figured out that towards the end of the movie, they, you know, were totally out of money. They didn't have any more film.
Which they didn't tell us until after we wrapped. By the way, we can't pay
we
it.
couldn't do extra takes because they had no more film. So I think it's the only reason any of us are alive.
It's true. On those scenes when I'm getting in, you know, he's pulling me back in the house, and I remember looking around one time when it was just, you know, he had different angles. He'd have all these different angles, and he was afraid, because it was on film, he was afraid that he wouldn't have covered everything. And so I understand why he had to get a lot of shots and all that. It's okay. But at the time, you know, you're seeing 32 on that one where he's grabbing me in a certain direction right by the staircase. 32, I just remember seeing that.
On the
and
slate,
going,
yeah.
Yeah, you know, in other words, 32 takes from one angle.
This was before we had video assist, you know, where you could run back video on it and see what it looked like on film. Video assist was a small video camera that was actually in the lens of the film camera, and it shot simultaneously with the. And we didn't have video assist on.
No, back in those days, you could hear,
just had to trust the cinematographer.
Kim and Toby over on the side. Did she hit the back? I don't know. Did she hit the thing? 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 I don't know. Did she hit the thing?
Then you had a continuity person with a Polaroid camera that just snapped like crazy, so they could look back over stuff to make sure when they did it again that everything was the same thing.
And then we would go out to our very plush, air-conditioned
Winnebago.
Winnebago.
Oh,
We sat and waited for hours for clouds to pass. It was 95, 98 degrees.
So we're all sitting on cement blocks, and Marilyn is in a brand new Cadillac with air conditioning, with her beautiful blonde hair blowing. And I said, Teri, how come Marilyn's in there and we're out here? And Teri goes, because she's dating the owner of the car. Oh. Okay.
Marilyn is in like Flint with the producer. We were happy for that, though, because Marilyn was the sweetest person we've ever known, and she did a brilliant job.
God, we beat the hell out of her.
They
What a
did.
trooper. I
They
mean,
did.
she'd just do it again, you know.
They did.
Yeah.
That's those scenes with Jim Sedow, right? He
broke that broomstick on her back, you know. And then, you know, Toby liked it so much that he just had him keep it and poke her. You know.
Well, in a real movie, they're supposed to use balsa wood, which is real light, very light. So the broomstick that he used was supposed to be balsa wood, and the little rod that he beats me with in the dirt is supposed to be balsa wood. But it's a low-budget movie.
Grab something out of the shed.
Toby's like, oh, I hear something. Toby, that's the oak dowel that holds the gaffer's tape. He goes, well, we'll put it back. So he hands the oak dowel to Jimmy Sedow, and with the scene where I come up and Jimmy jumps out of the truck and he's hitting me with the thing. It's in real time. You can watch the movie right now. It's in real time. He's hitting me with an oak dowel. The operative word here is oak. And Jimmy's going, he's under his breath. Jimmy's going, wow, you're doing great. I'm going, bitch, that hurts! he's like, and you can hear the producer and Toby on the other side of the camera going, wow, it's really hot tonight. Is he doing well?
Well, and that rag that he stuffed in Marilyn's mouth was just a greasy old rag on the floor of that.
No, they were
gas
using
station.
it to clean the weak old meat pieces.
Yeah.
And Toby picks it up and goes, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then ties it off with what?
An old piece of rope that he found somewhere.
And
Everything
poor
was done on
Marilyn
the
give the
fly.
dish. And again, wow, she's doing great.
She has no choice.
Nobody ever said Toby was a misogynist, did they?
God. Hey.
They actually cut Marilyn's finger in that scene with you
Yeah.
too, didn't they?
I didn't know till years later. I found out actually at a panel in front of a whole bunch of people.
That
When,
you were suckling blood.
when Ed and Gunnar were talking about it, well, what?
Really?
Because I had like toothless dentures in, and
You didn't even.
and I'd
notice.
been, it'd been 20 hours since I sat down in a makeup chair, so I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But yeah,
Covered in all that in that heat.
oh boy,
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I'm glad we did it then.
it would kill me now. I was 20 years old in great shape then.
Yeah.
But God, it'd kill me to do that now. I'd just die. I'd have a fucking stroke or something.
There were two amazing, incredible props from the film that later in life are worth a fortune. I was fortunate enough to come into possession of one of them. I never got to possess the other one, but the other one's worth a great deal of money. One was Grandma, who sits in the chair, and the other was her red shorts. Which, how much have you been offered for those? A lot.
I've never seen them again.
I know, but like,
Yeah.
but the point is, had we known, we would have saved.
Oh, they would have let us
everything.
take our.
Right.
They would have let us take our
I
costume.
thought
Shit,
I
don't
took
think-
my costume with me, but I guess not, huh?
I didn't. I just
Girl,
wanted to
you,
get the fuck out
you
of
know
there.
how much
I know, but I
Heritage
was-
Auctions in Dallas would write you a check right now.
Yeah,
for-
but I was so irritated with them, at that very end, that it was
No, we
sort
would have
of like,
saved everything.
yeah, we would have saved it had we thought. But, I was doing a play with Andy Devine at the time, and he'd hear me talking about, they needed me for pickup shots, and I had to play offer and all this stuff. And
None of them know who fucking Andy Devine is.
Andy Devine was in the movie Stagecoach. He was a big star at that time, but he was doing dinner theater because he was old.
He was Jingles in the Gene Autry
They
show.
were jingles, hey!
He was Roy Rogers' assistant in Roy Rogers' series. He had that high voice, and Roy, whatever. Anyway, big star, and he'd been through everything, and he'd made big money, but now he was doing dinner theater, and his wife was with him, and so I was over bitching about how I needed to get off because I wanted to do this play, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, Teri, that fucking film will never come out of the can," and I mean it just, it gave me a reality shock, and I thought, oh, it won't really ever, okay, ever, oh. And it didn't for a while.
Little did they know. Does anyone have any questions in the audience? You can raise up your hand if you do.
The New Jersey gangster who took all the money. Is he still
They're all dead.
They're all dead.
Brothers.
What
What's your
happened
brothers?
to all those?
They went to Chicago. They're from New York. They're card-carrying members of the Colombo family, for real.
Okay.
They go to Chicago and they go, how can we make more money? Hey, I know. There's whores and dopes and stuff in Chicago. Let's go over there. So they go to Chicago and they try to take the dope and prostitution rackets over in Chicago. Hello, there's already some people that are doing that. And they took great umbrage of this, so they chased them down the streets and they shot a couple of them. And one of them was running.
One of them ended up in the East River with cement over.
Oh, absolutely. But they, we didn't have to whack them. The other mob guys whacked them.
What happened to all the rights? Because they had the rights, right? And that's
Yeah,
why they
but
took all the money.
they had a company in New York City, and they paid a New York judge
Bryanston.
$400,000 to laterally transfer the funds across the hall and open a new office. And the New York judge ruled that we couldn't sue the second company.
Just siphon it off into a sister
It's not
corporation.
uncommon. Martin
all-
Scorsese's telling me a story about he and Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro, same deal, never got paid for Mean Streets, which at the time was a low-budget kind of movie. They never got paid for that. It's just, it is what it is.
So didn't they, within about 3 years, Roger Corman's company bought it?
Not
right?
Roger Corman, what's his name? I'll never forget what's his name. No, not Roger Corman. The other guy. Anybody got a
I
phone?
thought it was
Oh,
Roger
him.
Corman's company, AIP.
No, not Roger Corman, but Joseph Brenner. Thank you, Brain.
Huh.
Joseph Brenner, who just, all he did was Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the only movies ever made in the history of the motion picture industry that's never been out of distribution from the day it was released. It's still in distribution. Right now, it's being, as we talk, it's being booked for a college campus, midnight movies, HBO, it's into infinity.
So you're not seeing.
No,
No.
because
No,
we
no.
don't have a SAG contract. If we had the Screen Actors Guild contracts,
Yeah.
I get more money now from Chainsaw 3D than I made on the original.
Right.
And all they're using in Chainsaw 3D is what, a little
Footage.
snippet of film.
But I
But
made
it's a
more
SAG
in
film.
one check from 3D than I made for the whole time
Absolutely.
filming.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's at the
I
start
made
where they're like.
much
Just to
more
put
on
that in
3D.
perspective.
And that's because the guy that produced 3D wanted to see us fare well, and I believe he worked with Kim a little bit on
Mhm.
that, right? So we had somebody in our corner finally, because when we signed those deferred contracts, we thought, we believed that they were real, but we found out that the only time that we would see money, when it was, you don't know, but in the 80s, it was the most rented video cassette of the 80s. And in
We
that,
got nothing from that.
and we got nothing from that, DVDs, merchandising, nothing. The only time we get any money from the original Texas Chainsaw money, deferred contract thing that we signed after 2 weeks when they ran out of money, is when it is shown on the big screen. Well, it's never shown on the big screen. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that's how they screwed us,
The whole video thing, there was no such thing as home video back then.
Right.
There
No.
wasn't video cassettes back. It was reel-to-reel 1-inch videotape, So,
Do you
nobody
realize we have-
anticipated home video, and so those contracts didn't have that shit in there.
We have 4 different laser discs of Chainsaw. There's 4 different laser discs of Chainsaw.
So,
The good news is, we're here, and you guys come by. And if we live to be 400 or 500, we'll make the money back.
What
have
I
to know how much we
say,
appreciate
and
you.
Ed, you can borrow this too. Whenever I'm approaching a promoter, I say, I just wanted you to know that I'm alive and I'm feeling really good. I just want to give them incentive, to bring this out. We are so grateful for our fans, really are. Thank
Actually,
you.
yeah, I made on Chainsaw. I only made, and I was paid off many years ago. I only made $637 on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Over the years, I have made God knows how much doing these things, meeting fans, signing autographs, selling stuff, from home, mail order. If I'd have made all that money in 1974, when I was 20 years old, I'd have carried my liver around in a wheelbarrow for a couple of years, and I've just dropped dead at 22, It's just been, woo-hoo! Because I'm that kind of guy.
Where's Dugan? He's in the casino with Dean Martin.
So I'm so thankful to all of you, for keeping us alive all these years. It's been wonderful.
Oh, and Teri, you may have got sick of the shorts, but most of the guys in here will never get sick of the shorts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't wear them today.
Did you ever hear the discussion when they were about how they were dropping the camera down?
I don't think she knew until they shot.
Daniel told me 40 years later, when we had our reunion, Daniel Perlman, our DP. He was telling the audience, he said, yeah, what happened was we had Marilyn and Teri at the Coke machine, and Toby kept talking to Teri, and he wanted me to follow her around. So he would be, on his knees, following me around, trying to get pictures of my butt in the shorts. And I had no idea that this was going on because I was so busy talking to Toby, Because, anyway, that's the way that one happened. But I will tell you this. When they were going to do that scene of me walking up to the house, and they had me, I was going to go sit in the swing, Dottie was putting on some makeup off to the side. And I knew what the next scene was. It was me walking up to the house. But I looked over, and Daniel, the cameraman, Dottie's husband, was under the swing with the camera. And I looked at Dottie and I said, I was pretty young. I was 21. I was naive, but I said, what is Daniel doing under the swing with the camera, Dottie? And she said, well, I don't know. And I just started getting really huffy, and I looked for Toby and I said, Toby, why is Daniel under the swing with that camera? Because I knew I was supposed to go sit there in a slatted swing and everything, So Toby's, Terry, don't worry about it. And so I wouldn't let up, and I don't know how long we argued, but I finally said, I am not going to sit in that swing. No, I am not going to. Teri, goddammit, we're going to shoot all around it. And, I thought, they're going to shoot all around it. Oh, and they did. There were my cheeks and cinema color. And they shot all around it, the house, the sky,
Film history right here, ladies and gentlemen. Film history right here. Sharon Stone and Jerry McMinn didn't know the camera was going to be right there.
Well, and then they had him on that track, following me, What's he on that track for? Anyway, 35 years later, I did embrace it. And I said, can we get that up on Sunset Boulevard or something? And now when I get really depressed or I'm not feeling so good about myself or whatever, I go to all the YouTube things. And say, that McMinn, she was hot back then. And then I wipe my tears and I go, see, it wasn't so bad.
Anyone else from the audience have questions right now? Anyone?
Is it true you guys got fucked up on wheat brownies?
No, Gunnar did. He ate them all. They brought magic brownies. It was the caterer.
It was Ted's wife.
It was Sally. Sally Nicholson.
Nicolau.
Nicolau. And we did have great food. She was
a hell of a
fantastic cook.
Kind of hippy-dippy vegetarian, sort of.
Yeah.
With meat in it.
But really
But
good
Texas.
food.
Vegetarian with meat in it.
So you had a big plate of brownies, and they were for the crew, not the cast. And Gunnar was through with his scene early, and he goes in and he, well, say, these are good.
Man could eat.
Sally comes in and goes, where the brownies? Gunnar's like, I don't know, man. Wow, you're like taller, man. You're on the floor. Oh, wow. Wow. You've never had any brownies before?
Yeah, that was his first experience, was it
Yeah.
not?
And never again, he said. He's like, we're doing a scene. He goes, Ed, I'm like, what? I can't feel my legs. I said, you're standing up. I know.
It's exaggerating a little bit, I think.
And I'll tell you,
I told you a million times, I don't exaggerate.
not much. Gunnar had been roommates with my boyfriend George before, in the year before.
Good old George.
And
Don't start.
George didn't need much to tempt him to look for other chicks. But he had Gunnar, who was our roommate, his roommate. And, I was the girlfriend, right? And so Gunnar and I did not get along because Gunnar's agenda and mine were, at odds. And so I moved away from George, and I was happy because I would never see Gunnar again. I was really happy about that. And I was happy I was not going to see George anymore either. I was tired of him two-timing me and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I get cast in this movie, and I come to the Winnebago where we're going to sign our contracts, and where it's almost, hotter outside than it is in the Winnebago. So Kim, the writer and producer, is standing about midway in the Winnebago by one of the banquettes. And he said, "Teri, hey, come here, I want you to meet Leatherface." And I went, "Oh." And I popped on down the aisle, and there was this big hulk of a man who was as tall sitting down as I was standing up. And he looked over at me, and I looked at him, and we both went, "What are you doing here?" And that was Gunnar and I. We had to have coffee, but we worked through our problems. And he had dumped George too. I think he owed him money or something.
Is there any other questions from the audience right now?
So the dinner scene, is that, that's what the hardest thing you've
This is
ever
when
done?
Ed does not exaggerate.
It was awful.
This one time, that's it.
This one time. So that was 27 hours.
God.
Straight.
He knows it to the second. I was
It was a long time.
I was 4.5 hours in makeup before I started working, so I don't know how long. It had been well over 24 hours when I finally got
And
my
2.5
makeup on.
six-packs in, too.
Yeah, yeah, a little bourbon thrown in there maybe. But
It's low budget movie making, when you have to have the camera equipment back in the morning by 8 o'clock or you go home another 18 grand.
well, and also Toby,
You gotta shoot all night.
the way he shot, like most people, you do a couple of masters. You do one from either end of the table and one from the side. Do the whole scene. Then you bust it up into 2 shots, over the shoulder shots, close-ups, and you just do a little snippets of that to cut into. We had to do the whole fucking scene every time. So my close-ups, we did the whole scene. His close-ups, we did the whole fucking scene. Everybody's close-up, and the 2 shots and all that shit, whole scene.
And they have the windows taped shut with black paper because the light's coming and going outside as it's wont to do. And, it has to remain
Yeah, you gotta
forever
be able to match
midnight
light.
in the movie.
And we have 2 fibers. No, 1 fiber, a couple of deuces, and inkies and tape. We probably had about 11,000 watts of tungsten. My brother, hold on.
Lippy.
No. I cut him off. No.
Hi, Robert. We're doing a threesome. Come over, please. Oh,
But,
that's nasty.
Where was I on that?
Doing a threesome, apparently.
So it took forever, and we're in a lot of film. And there was probably at least 11,000 watts of tungsten blasting on us. And there was a box fan, an old box fan with this like greasy white cord just plugged into the wall, and between setups, it'd say, "Let's get some ventilation here," and one of the grips or something would plug that old fan, and it would just kind of go over in the fucking corner.
'Cause you can't have
and
the-
everybody go over there and go,
No air conditioning because the sensitive microphones will pick it up, so you have to turn that off.
We didn't have any air
Oh, there was no AC
conditioning.
in that fucking
There
house.
wasn't?
No.
Those hippies didn't need that shit.
Well, back then, none of us had, I had no AC at my apartment.
No, you have
I had
swamp
a
heaters.
Swamp cooler. Had a swamp cooler.
coolers.
But our parents probably had air conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
I remember they had air conditioning. But, I don't know, did you have any?
No.
No, we didn't have air conditioning. So, you were used to sweating. You
We
were
were so
used
poor
to
we couldn't
being
pay
hot.
attention. We were poor.
Yeah, I mean, we were just lucky if we paid our rent and had a fan. That would be a very
Now we have lots
lucky
of
thing
fans.
to have a fan.
Many fans.
in retrospect, though, when I see that scene, that's really a beautiful scene. It's so well shot and edited, and the sound editing, and just everything. It was a beautiful scene. I think I see what Toby was maybe doing. And see, he just beat us up for so many hours and over and over and over again, take after take. We were all exhausted and uncomfortable. He just waited until the tension got so fucking high in the room that he got what he wanted. And it was like, okay, that's a wrap. I'll go home. Right about the point we were actually going to kill Marilyn, because by that point I couldn't stand the sound of her fucking voice anymore. It was a wrap, you know. When Gunnar actually said, yeah, at one point he thought, yeah, let's just fucking kill her and go home.
They won't know.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with Jim Cedar where he said you guys started to actually get a little squirrely and you're getting there maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it kind of plays in your mind.
I managed to hit her with there was a foam rubber head on that hammer, but it had like a hickory or ash handle or something that went through the foam rubber head and came out. You ever seen an old hammer where the top of the handle comes out and there's an old nail shoved through it or something to keep the head from flying off, you know? Well, that was there. So I whacked her right there. The actual shot of her bleeding is used in the film. Got her right there with that.
Producer like that.
But other than that, we all got along beautifully.
What? This young lady has a question?
How much money and time was spent on the set design and props?
We were actually very lucky in that regard. We had a wonderful squirrely guy named Robert Burns.
Roadkill.
My name's Robert Bernard. I'm really squirrely. Do you have a problem with that?
No. But Robert was wonderful. He would see things that nobody else could see. He would like, where are you going now, Robert?
I'm gonna go, there's like a field next to the house where we're filming. I'm gonna wander around in the field and find shit.
Robert would come back with a box of things that he'd found in the field. Like,
You know, he and Mary, who was also our script girl and the continuity person, and Marilyn's body double, they in their spare time, they hopped in his old truck and drove around the country looking for roadkill. And he'd take him back to his workshop and boil the skin and shit off of them to get
in a real movie, you pay a guy $108,000 a week to use one of those machines that he just tells it what to fabricate, and it fabricates it out of foam, and then you have a guy come in and spray it with, you know, and you can't tell the difference between the real one and that one. But we didn't have that guy. We had Robert Burns. We're going back to the field. I need some more shit. But don't you think that when you go into that room and you slide, there's nothing like it?
No, he was incredible, and that room was
Evil
an
genius.
amazing. Yeah, he really was, and he was so quiet. You know,
Oh boy, but he, not when it came to, if he had a vision
Yeah.
and it didn't agree with Toby's vision,
yeah.
boy, their fights were fucking,
Right.
okay, this is gonna
That's
take a
true.
while, everybody
That's
go
true.
out.
But in answer to your question, because of Robert's genius, they spent very little. I mean, he
Oh,
found all the
yeah.
shit in the field. No, but it's like, you know, you take a box of paints. Well, it's what you do with them, you know. Mr.
They
Picasso was
improvised.
rather good with that shit.
Yeah.
And grandma?
Grandma was a real skeleton that Robert had bought from India. India?
You have to buy
It
them
was
from
all-
out of
they
the
were all from
country
India.
because you couldn't
All the human
That's what
bones
it
are
was.
from India.
legally you couldn't buy that within the United
The
States.
teeth he might have gotten from UT Dental School or something. But they were real teeth, like that one that you step on,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually got a filling in it and everything.
And for you young filmmakers, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie ruined y'all's ability to do what we did with our film. They were checking out cameras from the radio, television, film department under the
them out.
guise of working on their student thesis. And they would put tape over the things that were the property of University of Texas.
Yeah.
And they would come and film. And then later when they found out, well, now they have a whole new system, so you can't make a movie with their character.
Well, Daniel had a key to the fucking film department. It was summertime, there weren't a lot of people there, so. Yeah. Short ends of 16
Yeah, but
millimeter,
this system.
stolen film, borrowed cameras.
And if you want to see some really, really, some talent, you should go to danielpearldp.com. And you should see his
reel.
His reels are amazing. It's like those commercials that you usually would get up and leave the room, but they're so good you want to watch them. You know, he does those kind of commercials, and he's done everybody famous their music videos.
He was on the ground floor of that.
Yeah,
He traveled with
Yeah.
Mariah Carey for years because he was the only
Billy-
person she'd let
Billy,
light
what's his name?
her.
everybody.
So even for a still photography shoot, she'd have Daniel there to do her lighting for her.
He did White Wedding, didn't
Yeah. He
shot White Wedding.
You won't believe the names that you'll see and the videos, and you'll go, "Wow, he did that."
Which one of the Michael Jackson ones did he do? Wasn't Thriller.
I can't remember, but he's did her.
It's
He
on
did
there.
Janet Jackson.
The one with what's her name and
He
what's his
did.
name?
What's the one where all the girls are playing the guitars?
Simply irresistible.
Simply Irresistible. He did that.
One of my
Yeah,
personal
good one.
favorites.
Good one. Good one.
Robert Palmer.
I was thinking
Yeah.
Boz Skaggs,
Slow.
And some Boss Skaggs. Yeah. But the
Fuck
list
Boz.
is so long. You'll get
I hate
tired of
fucking Boz.
scrolling.
Fuck
Language.
him. I had to wait on him one time in San Francisco, Boz Skaggs, and two A&R guys from the label around the corner. And they stayed. I was working lunch shift. They stayed until the fucking dinner shift came in the back patio. Drank like between two guys. I drank like 6 bottles of wine. I was cleaning up. Finally, Boz left. They got into a huge argument. And they were drinking. And Boz don't like anybody. Good Austin boy. But so he split finally, and they were these A&R guys were finishing their wine, and I was cleaning up. And one of them said, "Jesus Christ, he's as bad as Van Morrison." And I said, "Wow, is Van pretty bad?" One guy looked at me and said, "Oh, fuck."
Okay.
One more.
Pardon? I think that's everything. They have to get back to signing. Just big round of applause.